It's a beautiful winter morning here in Saitama, Japan, and I thought I'd introduce a new concept for music as a journey. This is side trips. Let's cue the music.
あんなのあのこれをやってる。
Hi, so I'm just taking a look at the April 1974 issue here of Circus Magazine, and there's an article in here about Queen. Maybe you heard about them. They had their debut album out in 1973, and it looks, judging by this article, they're about to release their second album. And it sounds pretty interesting. It says, their new LP is a versatile blend of Sabbath-heavy rockers and soft yes-type ballads. Commercial, but very progressive. Sounds really interesting. I can't wait to hear it. Right, so Queen, huh? Well, first of all, let me tell you, as I said before, and as some of you probably know, I live in Japan, and the movie Bohemian Rhapsody opened last year, I think November 9th. It opened in theaters. And it is actually still playing in some theaters, and today's February 4th, 2019, so it's almost 3 months going in the theaters. The movie is really popular here, and there is a kind of Queen boom going on right now. In fact, last December, there were several news reports about how popular the band had become, and part of the reason for that is Queen had a very big following here back in the 1970s and even in the 1980s. When Queen came to perform in Japan, there are many videos about their visit, but they were welcomed, and they were very gracious and fun, and people really liked them. At the same time, Queen at that time were still performing fairly hard and heavy rock in between their other stuff. And if you know a bit about the history of the band, their music style, actually it started out quite heavy guitar rock, and so sometimes early Queen music anyway is lumped in with heavy metal because back in 1973-74 a lot of their style of music was what heavy metal was. So anyway, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, they were really popular in Japan. But there was one interesting thing about Queen that separated them from the others. One woman on television, an older woman who was a youngster at the time, she commented that she liked Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple, but it was the guys who really liked those bands, and they were very interested in talking tech, like what kind of guitar, what kind of amps, what kind of pedals, and so on. And a lot of women didn't really get into that kind of conversation. But in the case of Queen, you had Freddie Mercury, who was a designer and who designed costumes and also wore a little bit of makeup and so on. There was something about him that just, I don't know, reached out to women more. And so women especially became very attracted to Queen. And I should also note, Roger Taylor on drums was one of those dreamboat rock stars for a lot of women. So yeah, Queen really took off in popularity here. As their image changed through to the late 70s, some of the guys started to become a little uncomfortable with it. And one documentary director I know, he commented he was okay with Freddie Mercury in 1975, but by 1979, with his hard gay image, that's the kind of leather jacket, sunglasses, leather cap, and mustache look, a lot of guys got turned off about that. But there was no question that the music was still really hitting home for a lot of people. So anyway, Queen are back with Bohemian Rhapsody. People love the movie. Some people have seen it so many times. There was a chart showing the first week in November how many people saw it, and then the next week, and then the third week, and then the fourth week how many people had watched the movie. And a lot of them were repeat watchers, some people having watched it 19 or 20 times. But one point that was interesting was a lot of the older women who are now in their 40s, 50s, or even 60s, they took their kids to see it. And a lot of them, they have sons and daughters who are in their 20s. And their sons and daughters became really interested in the band. And especially on the news, they interviewed many young women, and a lot of young women really were attracted to Queen, same as it was back in the 70s. So that was interesting to find out about. And they also talked to some people who were at the Tower Records or something. They were buying lots of DVDs, and when it seemed that the women wanted the DVDs more than the CDs, whereas men wanted the albums more than the DVDs. So I think women seem to have more of an interest in Queen's visual appeal than just the music, whereas men seem to be more geared towards the music. A replica of Brian May's guitar was selling like hotcakes in Japan here back in December as well. So anyway, yeah, Queen really popular in Japan, and as I've heard, they're also really popular in South Korea as well, so that's kind of cool. Okay, my interest in Queen. Well, I knew some of their songs way back when. I can remember the younger brother of a friend of mine singing Another One Bites the Dust. Yeah, okay. I didn't know whose song that was. And there was a Coffee Crisp commercial. Coffee Crisp is a kind of candy bar, if you don't know. They used a similar version to Another One Bites the Dust for their commercials back in the early 80s as well. Okay, and of course, I remember We Are the Champions. A lot of kids on my street were into sports, and I remember one of my friends singing We Are the Champions. So I knew all these songs, but I really didn't know whose they were. I didn't know anything about Queen. And it wasn't until 1984, when The Works came out and Radio Gaga was a hit, that I finally was introduced to Queen's music. And I can tell you, with Radio Gaga, there was nothing for me. It was a soft pop rock hit of the 80s. In 1984, I was really into heavy metal. Judas Priest came out with Defenders of the Faith, Iron Maiden with Power Slave, Ronnie Dio, Last in Line, his second album. There were so many great albums, Scorpions, Accept, Metallica. What was Radio Gaga to me? Nothing. So I decided there and then that Queen was not my thing. And a year or two later, when I had a Queensryche album, I said to one of my friends, "Hey, have you heard of Queensryche?" And he said, "No, Pete, I don't listen to Queen." Like that was some kind of a turn-off thing, right? Guys don't listen to Queen. Anyway, so, but why am I into the band? Well, I can tell you it's not exactly because of the movie. Queen often get associated with progressive rock, and it's not that they're considered exactly a progressive rock band, but their approach to songwriting is quite creative and a bit unorthodox. If you listen to something like Killer Queen, there's a lot of little things happening in between the basic song format. They'll put in a little triangle ding or a little drum roll or some little guitar move and some backing vocal thing. So they're very creative with how they construct their songs. And I think because of that, they get associated with progressive rock, because their music is basically atypical of usual pop rock music. So, anyway, I was curious about the band. I started to notice the band's influence in a lot of the more modern prog rock bands I was listening to. And then I heard that Stone Cold Crazy from their third album, Sheer Heart Attack, was a kind of proto-thrash metal song. So we're talking about two types of music I'm really into, my two favorite subgenres of rock music, prog rock and heavy metal. Hey, Queen are now in both categories. And then I read that Martin Popoff, who has written a lot of books about heavy metal bands and heavy metal, he said that the first Queen album, the debut album, was one of his favorite heavy guitar rock albums of all time. So, okay, now I definitely got to check out the band. So the first thing I did was back in 2017, I got Sheer Heart Attack. Let me dig that one up here. Here we have it. Really surprised. Brighton Rock, Brian May's guitar solo feature. Wow. Killer Queen. Okay, I knew the song. It was alright, but listening to it now, it's really interesting. I like that. Flick of the Wrist has the Queen sound, but also some pretty good heavy guitar riffs. Now I'm Here, I knew it, but I think I never paid much attention. What a great song. It's has some almost really heavy Aerosmith type riffs in there. Stone Cold Crazy, of course. Bring Back That Leroy Brown is just really fun and amazing how fast it goes and how quickly things come in, go, stop, change, next thing. Great song. So, okay, I think I'm going to have to check out more of this band. And so the next thing I did, almost a year later, was to pick up News of the World. Now, this album is, of course, famous because of We Will Rock You and We Are the Champions. However, I heard Martin Popoff on Banger TV's YouTube channel. They were talking about hard rock and heavy albums of 1977, and Martin Popoff mentioned the song It's Late from this one. So, okay, let's check it out. Yeah, it didn't strike me as immediately as a great album as Sheer Heart Attack did, but Sheer Heart Attack, the song from this, which was originally written at the time of the Sheer Heart Attack album, that is a fast-paced rocker, almost like Sweet meets punk. And then we have there's a Roger Taylor song, and another Roger Taylor song, Fight From the Inside. Great, groovy, hard-rocking song as well. Now I'm starting to like this one more. There are more and more songs on here I'm picking out that I like. And by the way, Spread Your Wings, a John Deacon song, I recently got a Blind Guardian album, power metal band out of Europe. They cover Spread Your Wings on their album, so that was kind of interesting. It's like, I know this song. Alright, so just before the movie came out, I finally ordered Queen 2. This one really blew me away. Lots of heavy stuff on here. Father to Son, great heavy riffs in here in some places. Ogre Battle, what a monster that is, and almost some like pre-Judas Priest heavy riffs in some parts. The music on here really shows what Queen was capable of doing. They were starting to reach out to their capacity here. So mixing the hard guitar rock with these multi-layered vocals, acoustic bits, piano bits, it's starting to really come together here on this album. Now, I did mention the first album. It's over here, as you can see, the debut album. This one is quite interesting. It's really different. As I said, you can feel Queen, as we know them from the late 70s, coming together here. This one is quite different, and I think it's because most of the material on this album was written between, I believe, 1969 and 1972. So the music climate at that time was more towards the heavy rock style, and in fact this is what some people consider to be the period of the initial first wave of heavy metal. So the music reflects that, but still we can hear the use of these like a chorus type vocals coming in. So it's different. It's very interesting. A lot of good stuff on here. But it's not the Queen that we would come to know. I like it though. Of course, these two classics, Night at the Opera and Day at the Races, Bohemian Rhapsody. Also, the Prophet song. Great heavy riffs in there, apparently written back at the time of Queen 2, so that makes sense when you compare the riffage. But we see Queen really starting to branch out here more into their really diverse sound, like, what's it called here, Seaside Rendezvous. Very interesting song, similar to Bring Back That Leroy Brown, with, I think, Roger Taylor and Freddie Mercury doing all the instrumental bits, like the trumpets, like this. And the tap dancing part, apparently, excuse me, thimbles on the fingers tapped on the, what do you call it, the board with all the switches. That one. Over here, Tie Your Mother Down. Yeah, it's alright. Long Away, beautiful Brian May song. Millionaire Waltz, interesting. Somebody to Love. I never thought that much of that song before, but now I think it's really brilliant. Some other ones, White Man, another kind of heavy track talking about white people going into North America and doing what they did to the native people. And Teo Toriate, Let Us Cling Together, a song with a chorus with Japanese lyrics, written after the band had visited Japan. Love that song as well. So, actually, these two, like it. I was hesitant to buy Jazz. I did. Like it. I was expecting the band to be less and less hard rock by this time, but Mustafa, a weird song, but heavy bits. Fat Bottom Girls, okay, good rocker. Bicycle Race, fun. I like it better now than before. If You Can't Beat 'Em, Let Me Entertain You, Dead on Time. More of that jazz. Yeah. And of course, Don't Stop Me Now. So, yeah, another good one. Now, I also actually ordered The Game and the Works, and I was supposed to have received them by December 23rd. They didn't arrive. I got a message from the vendor saying that the order had arrived back in their warehouse. This was around January 6th. Do I still want them, or do I want a refund? I said, yes, I want them. Please send them over. It's now February 4th. I still don't have them. I sent them a message 2 days ago saying, hey, where's my stuff? So I'm waiting to hear back from them. So anyway, yeah, I'm looking forward to those two. Hot Space, I've heard a couple of songs. It's too much in the 80s pop direction for me. And to be honest, 80s pop almost irritates me sometimes. So I listened to a couple of songs and I actually got that feeling like 80s pop. So I'm going to stay away from that one. What was it? It's a Kind of Magic, The Miracle. There are 1 or 2 songs on there that I like, but I'm afraid the rest of it might still be outside my boundaries. However, I heard about Innuendo. I heard this was a kind of return to form, the more guitar-oriented music, and this is another Queen-type album. So we've got some songs with the heavy riffs, we've got some of the more creative types, some of the more diversified types. One song on here, The Hitman, sounds like Freddie Mercury doing 1988 Whitesnake. Really hard-hitting, heavy song, great guitar sound and riffs. Maybe a bit funny for Queen fans to hear that, but hey, I like it. What is it also? Headlong, nice, good, upbeat rocker. Innuendo, their big, like Bohemian Rhapsody, a song that goes into different parts with Steve Howe of Yes doing a guest guitar appearance. Yeah, I like it. This is 1991 Queen, but like their 1970s approach to music and songwriting. Not really the pop sound so much on here. So, what else can I say about the band? Yeah, I really like Queen. My wife is absolutely nuts for them, especially now. She liked them before. Ordering books about Freddie Mercury, looking at videos, following Brian May on Twitter and Instagram. But anyway, so there we have it. That's my little bit about Queen. For those of you who have been fans for a long time, good choice. For those of you who don't know about the band so much, well, what I said about the albums, if anything sounds like it might be interesting, do check it out. Okay, and that's all for the first installment of Music is a Journey Side Trips. I'm Peter Scove. I'm coming back later with other side trips. See you then.